Okay, so we're learning that you have to wait after meat. You have to wait 6 hours until you eat milk. That's in addition to rinsing your mouth, eating something, make sure it's a separate meal, and so on. Now what happens if you didn't eat meat, but you ate something pariv in a meat pot? In other words, somebody cooked potatoes or vegetables in a meat pot. There's no meat in the pot, and now you want to eat so you ate the vegetables. So the question is, do you have to wait, how long do you have to wait after the vegetables which were cooked in a meat pot? So the custom is as follows. If the pot was used within 24 hours for meat, and the pot's clean, you're not allowed to eat milk together with the vegetables. You can eat it right before, or you can eat it right after. If the pot wasn't used for meat for 24 hours, it means you didn't cook anything meat in it for 24 hours, and it's clean, then according to halacha, you can eat milk together with the vegetables. Where do you have this case? It's a very practical case. You have a meat oven, okay, and you want to bake a parve cake that you should eat with your coffee, with the dairy coffee, or you want to serve it with a dairy meal, whatever. So if the oven is not clean, so then you have a totally different issue. If the oven is dirty with meat, then it's a big problem. What? Clean that there's no substantial meat. We're not talking about drops. Now, if the oven is clean, and now you want to bake a cake Friday afternoon, even though Friday morning you baked your chicken in the same oven, but the oven is clean, then you cannot eat the cake directly with milk. That's the custom. You're not allowed to eat the cake together with milk. You could eat it right before, you could eat it right after, but not together. If the oven wasn't used for 24 hours, and the oven is clean, and you bake a cake in the oven, then you're allowed to have it together with milk. What? The top and bottom? Yeah, but if the racks are dirty and you put a parve pot on top of the racks that are dirty, it could become fleshik. We're talking about either the oven's clean. Now, if somebody, let's say, the oven is clean, and they bake the cake, and they wrap the cake with aluminum foil, let's say, so then there's no problem. Then the cake is completely parve. So that's the din. If you want to eat something that you baked, same thing by the way in reverse. If you made a cake in a dairy oven, and now you want to eat it together with, it's a cake together with meat is uncommon. But you want to eat it together with meat, again, it's the same thing. If the oven was used that day for meat, for milchiks, then you baked the vegetable or whatever. Or I'll give you another example. Somebody baked challah. This is a very practical din, by the way. They baked challah in their oven. Okay? Now, after Shabbos, there's leftover challah that wasn't on the table, so it's clean, it's not touched with meat ends. Now you want to make French toast with that challah that you're going to put milk into. Or you want to smear cream cheese on the challah, or butter on the challah. So again, if the oven was used that day for meat, and the meat wasn't covered, let's say, and you use it that day for meat, then the challah cannot be eaten with milk, so you can't make French toast, the dairy French toast out of it. You can't smear cream cheese on it. What happens if it wasn't used for 24 hours and it's clean, so then you could even smear cream cheese on it.
What if the challah was wrapped like in aluminum foil?
If the challah was wrapped, then you'd be allowed to. Right. But you have this a lot of what? He asked a case. He didn't say if that's, he said if the challah is wrapped, what would be the din?
It's like a ready-made challah, you want to warm it up and put it in the oven.
Okay. Yeah, but you have to know the oven that they made it in.
All right.
What? No, you can make bread in a fleishik oven. You can't make bread fleishik or milchik. You're not allowed to bake a dairy bread unless if it has a different shape and a different size, or you bake very small amounts that you eat right away. Because that's another din, because people normally consider bread parv. So therefore, if you bake dairy bread, if somebody will come and take the bread, they won't think that it's dairy, and they're going to eat it together with meat. Or the same thing with milk. I mean, you can bake it with meat sauce, whatever. What?
What if we don't know the status of the oven for the last 24 hours?
If you don't know the last status of the oven for 24 hours is a very practical, important halacha, then the halacha says, Stam kelim eina ben yamin. A normal keli is assumed it was not used for 24 hours. So basically, if you have an oven that the guy's not around, you don't know, and it's clean. Or you have a pan or pot, whatever, and you don't know if it was used within 24 hours. Correct? So then the din is, they would be allowed to assume that it wasn't used for 24 hours, and then they could bake something if the oven's clean, and then they could eat it with, the opposite gender.
Would it help if the oven wasn't clean? Would it help to clean it out?
If you clean it out, but if you're going to clean it out with heat, unless it's liebem gamor, but then it's still, you're going to have hot fleishiks there. What were you saying about fleishik oven? Okay. Right. That's the din. That's open din shchunah. It's very practical, by the way, in paskening shilas, because somebody says they mixed a fleishik soup by mistake with a dairy spoon. Okay? It happens, or vice versa. Somebody cut a pizza with a milchik pizza with a fleishik knife. And you ask, okay, was it used within 24 hours or not? And they say, we don't know. They don't know when it was used last. So then halacha assumes that it wasn't used. So therefore it wouldn't be a problem. You'd have to kasher the spoon anyway. But as far as the pot of soup, there wouldn't be a problem. In fact, somebody called me to not exactly about this. Somebody bought a new pan, and what did they bake in it? A cake or something, whatever. A whole thing they baked in it, and then afterward, while still baking, they realized they didn't put it into the mikveh yet. So now the question is the food good or whatever? So halachically, a dish that wasn't treifel, you're not allowed to use it, but if you use it, the food's not treif. So I told him you'd have to take out the cake or whatever it was, and you have to, the cake you can eat, or whatever you baked there we can eat, but you're not allowed to use it. You have to clean it out and put it in the mikveh. You're not allowed to use it again. Okay, that's this thing. Now, what happens if somebody ate cheese? Now, how long do you have to wait after cheese to eat milk or dairy? So halacha, it says, according to many opinions, you could just rinse your mouth, eat something, and you can eat meat. Some people have a minhag, it says in halacha, to wait a half an hour. According to the Zohar, it says you wait an hour, and that's our custom. That generally speaking, that between milk and meat, okay, let's say you had, whatever dairy, you had ice cream, and now you want to go eat dinner, fleishik dinner. So our custom is to wait an hour. You have to rinse your mouth. You have to eat something in between, and you have to, that's it. You have to make a bracha achreni. You have to make an after bracha on the dairy.
Together with the hour, you have to rinse your mouth and something in between.
Yeah, that's a given b'chlal. You have to. Here he says here. I mean, even kid. I mean, it's the pasuk in Shulchan Aruch. Gavina, if you eat cheese, you're allowed to eat right afterwards meat, as long as you check your hands, make sure there's no. Okay. Then he says, "V'gam yenake shinov v'yediach piv." You have to clean your teeth and eat something. So there's two things you have to, because drinking does one thing, and cleaning the mouth and eating does something else. So you really have to do two things.
If you only drank, is it enough to just drink?
If you drink, b'diavad, you can do it. But it's best to eat and drink something.
I would say if someone had a cup of milk or coffee, does he have to eat something hard?
No, if they had a cup of milk, they didn't chew anything. So basically what they have to do is rinse the mouth. Now again, in many from people in the world don't even wait. They rinse their mouth, they eat something, and they right away can go eat meat. Our minhag is based on desire to wait an hour, and you have to make a bracha chreina. But a lot of times you have kids, they had drink a bottle of milk and then they're going to eat dinner and it's fleishik. So over there you could definitely, for kids, you could be lenient that they could do it right away.
So for milk, you wait an hour? If you drink milk, you prefer it?
Our minhag is to wait an hour. Based on desire, that should be a suda acheres, different meal, and the time for the suda is an hour. So according to the Zohar, and that's our custom, the Rebbe writes that we wait an hour.
So I thought it's only cheese.
What?
I thought it's only cheese or cream cheese that takes longer to you cook cream milk as well.
Same thing with milk. What?
You got to talk about hard cheese?
Yeah, right now. How did you know?
From my video.
Brilliant. Now what happens if somebody eats hard cheese? Now what's the definition of hard cheese? In halacha it says the definition of that is aged in the stomach of an animal for 6 months. Because then the cheese ages and then it becomes, again, like meat as far as digestive system, as far as getting stuck between the teeth and so on. But here's a very interesting discussion in contemporary halacha. Today, cheeses, now you have aged cheese, Parmesan cheese, other blue cheeses that are aged actually for 6 months. According to many opinions, if from the time it's made until you eat it, it's also 6 months, then you also have to wait 6 hours. Most people are lenient, except the Parmesan cheese. There's a whole list of cheeses. There's a list in the Kashr's books of all the cheeses you have to wait 6 hours for. Now, the interesting thing is with the cheeses, according to many opinions, that don't differentiate between soft cheese and hard cheese. And one of the reasons they don't differentiate, even though the world is not machmir like that, but the reason they say an interesting thing. Today, cheese is processed through chemicals. I was once in a cheese factory here. We were checking something out many years ago. And from the time the milk went into the vat and the ingredients were made, until the cheese came out as a block of cheese, was like an hour, maybe 2 hours. So many opinions want to say, it's only aged an hour or two, but the chemicals accomplish what the natural process of staying in the stomach of an animal would be in 6 months. So the Welt is makel. Most people, 99% of the people are lenient, and if it's hard cheese that's aged stuck in 6 months, then you have to wait 6 hours. If not, then you wait an hour. Even though the process does it much more. But
I'd say you have Parmesan cheese aged for 6 months.
shh. Hello.
So it's definitely hard cheese, but when you cooked it, it became soft and creamy.
It's not a question of hard, literally hard. Hard cheese, it means hainu shohum de bekeva v'yash shisha chadashim. Or it's wormed. Many times they used to put worms in the cheese. And they took out the worms, but it was that's why you see holes in the cheese. I mean, it's a fake. But in Shchonorch, it says they used to put worms in the cheese to age it and then they took out the worms, but the cheese would be good. So that was, then you have to wait 6 hours. Even though it's soft. If somebody has Parmesan cheese, which is 6 hour cheese, and you loosen it up, you soften it up, and you smear it on something, you still have to wait 6 hours. It's still hard cheese.
Even if you grate it and melt something?
Yeah, even if you grate it and melt it, it's
Because
still...
I read that somewhere, I was like, okay, I'll grate it.
Let me ask you a question. If somebody takes meat and grinds it up to something called ground beef, and then you eat it, You make a good hamburger on the grill, you know, with all the...
But there's no such thing as hard beef or soft beef.
That's soft.
No, I'm saying there's no difference. Beef is beef, but with cheese.
Right, so I'm saying, but what's the difference? If you soften it, it doesn't matter.
There's a difference because there's a difference between soft cheese and hard cheese.
No, halachically, hard cheese means it was aged and therefore it became remade.
5 months ago, it was only a 1 hour cheese, so maybe we could bring it back.
No, because if the type that comes to the market is already... a lot of the expensive cheeses, not the cheap, the really expensive cheeses, the good ones, most of them are 6-hour cheeses. Because that's what makes it really... Huh?
Actually,
Aged cheese.
so imagine two things, like the process, or if it's 6 months old, if you have a cheese that's 6
Some
months
poskim hold that if 6 months from the time it was made until and it's on the store and the shipping and all that, but again, we don't poskim like that.
That makes them make the expiration date less than 6 months.
The kosher places don't have expiration dates.
They do.
Mahadin.
Machat shin zun am meizem mechem mayim kim shvlag alter von gashem